Welcome to the Quotivation Podcast. Together, we will unlock inspiration, one quote at a time. Your host is one of America's top emerging public speakers. He is a former semifinalist in the World Championship of Public Speaking and is an expert motivator. Please welcome Jody Powell.
Welcome to the Quotivation Podcast, where we are unlocking inspiration, one quote at a time. And I hope you had a fantastic weekend and you are charged and you are ready to go out this week and win your week. Hang on just a second. Let me do something. I had to take a sip of coffee. Had to get the juices flowing. Hey, you know what? There's nothing wrong with having to find something that will spark that inspiration. Maybe it's caffeine. Maybe you need a good old McDonald's McCafe. I know what some of you thinking. Oh my God, he got McDonald's to sponsor him. Not yet. Hashtag where yet, McDonald's. I mean, product placement, especially in video, if you're watching this on YouTube, product placement is so simple. Hit me up, Mickey D's. Come on. I love McCafe. If I didn't buy coffee from McDonald's, they wouldn't have the money to start these coffee shops that they're starting. And how dare you start them in the Midwest and not near me? I digress. Where was I? It's okay if you need something to find that spark. It could be coffee. It could be caffeine. It could be listening to podcasts, which I hope it is. I hope you are finding that spark when you listen to the Quotivation Podcast. It's why I started this whole thing to begin with. But whatever it is, whether it's coffee or whether it's a phone call in the morning with mom or dad or your spouse or your kids, whatever you need to jumpstart your day, to get it off right, to start it in the right direction, make time for that. Some people meditate in the morning. Honestly, meditating for me has been a challenge. My mind goes 1,000 miles a minute. When I stop and I be quiet, my mind says, aha, here's our opportunity. Let's think about everything we possibly could ever think about. And so it takes diligence and practice and purpose to calm the mind and to truly get me into a meditative state. Some people like to meditate. Some people like to read. Some people will wake up and do a devotional. Some people will connect spiritually. Some people will pray. Whatever it is that motivates you, that inspires you, that kicks your day off right, go do it. Make time for it. Schedule it. You got to wake up 15, 20 minutes earlier. Do it. It's worth it. Because you have to have that kickstart, that thing that gets you ready to do what? To win your week. And that's what we want you to do. We want you to win your week every single week. Because when we win those moments, when we win the days, and we end up winning the week, we absolutely move ourselves so much closer to the goals that we had. And that's what we want to do right here on the Quotivation Podcast. And how do we do that? We start each episode off with a shot of motivation. And this week's shot of motivation, of course, is sponsored by my good friend, Amy Real, the real deal in all things mortgage. Amy is from Cross Country Mortgage, and she is a big fan of the Quotivation Podcast. She stays quotivated. She finds the things the first thing in the morning to kick off her day, to get her in the right frame of mind, to be inspired and motivated to get your mortgage deal done. So if you need a first mortgage, a second mortgage, maybe a mortgage on that investment property, or maybe you're looking to refinance, you went to the wrong person last time. Well, let me give you the right person. It's Amy Real, because she is the real deal in all things mortgage. Amy's phone number is 864-310-9337. That's 864-310-9337. You can also email Amy at amy.real, REIHL, @ccm.com. She is Amy Real, and she is the real deal for all things mortgage. Give Amy a call and tell her you were quotivated to get that mortgage deal done. Amy's NMLS number is 620. And as always, thanks, Amy. All right, let's take a shot of coffee. Let's get ready because now it's time to take another shot. A shot of motivation.
It's time for a shot of motivation, where the vibe's like taking a shot, but the high is pure inspiration. This is a quick, powerful boost of motivation to fire up your spirit. Get ready for a rapid infusion of uplifting stories, impactful quotes, and game-changing ideas. It's the swift, potent dose you need to amp up your game and win your week. It's a shot of motivation.
I love golf. I suck at golf, but I love golf. You know, in the movie The Legend of Bagger Vance, there's a line that I think sums up golf perfectly. Golf is not a game that can be won, only played. Well, that line is true, at least when you have a golf game like mine. I won't ever win the Masters or even have the low score at the local public course, but I will play the game. Now, there are those that have won this game, won it at the highest levels on the most difficult courses. They're champions, they're legends, they're heroes. So how do you win the unwinnable game? You fall in love with failing. Wait, what? That's right. You fall in love with failing. Jack Nicklaus was one of the greatest golfers of all time. But we can have the argument between Jack and Arnold and Tiger and others that are right up there in the top five. But I don't think there's any argument to say that he was at least one of the greatest of all time. Jack Nicklaus won 18 major championships in golf. Now, for all of you non-golfers, a major championship, there are 4 tournaments that are played every year that are considered majors. And they're kind of like the Super Bowl or the World Series in PGA golf. And those 4 major tournaments are the Masters, the PGA Championship, the U.S. Open, and the Open Championship, or the British Open. And they're played every year. And Jack won 18 of them in his career, more than anyone to ever play professional golf. He won 6 Masters tournaments. He won 5 PGA championships. He won 4 U.S. Opens, and he won 3 British Opens. Now, I want you to consider these facts about this incredible accomplishment that's a record that stands today. Okay? Jack Nicklaus played in a total of 164 majors. He won 18. Now imagine a Major League Baseball team in a regular season will play 162 games. Jack played 164. His record was 18 and 146. That's terrible in Major League Baseball terminology. I mean, we think about the 1962 New York Mets. They're considered to have the worst record in baseball in the modern era. They went 40 wins and 120 losses. Jack was 18 and 146. Jack Nicklaus finished second place in majors 19 times. He finished second, more than he won. Does anybody remember the Buffalo Bills of the early 90s? Some of you may be like, I mean, I'm sure they played in the early 90s. What about them? They went to 4 straight Super Bowls. Why are we not talking about the Bills dynasty of the early 90s? Because they lost all four. They lost all four Super Bowls. And so now how are they remembered? They're the lovable losers of the Super Bowl. They're a punchline. Never mind the accomplishment to get there, but they didn't win. They failed. Now, over the course of his career, Jack won a total of 117 professional tournaments. 99 of his wins were not majors. He played in a total of 331 professional tournaments in his career. So his record in terms of win-loss is 117 and 214. That's a win percentage of 35%. That means that 65% of the time, Jack Nicklaus failed to win the golf tournament he was playing in. So how do you fall in love with failing? When I think about the terminology fall in love, I can't help but think about the 27 years that I've spent with my wife. There are some things that come to mind when I think about our 27 years. Things like the experiences that we've shared, the things we have learned together, the accomplishments we've achieved together, and yes, even those few wins that we've earned together. Now, if you were to ask my wife how I am as a husband, she would genuinely say that I'm the greatest husband ever. Now, the truth is, I fail at least 65% of the time at being the greatest husband ever. And the fail rate, I guarantee you, is probably higher than that. But I have to fall in love with failing because of the many things that made me fall in love with my wife. When I fail as a husband, and when Jack Nicklaus failed to win those tournaments that he was playing in, he still had the experience. He still went through the process. He still experienced the mastery of the Masters, even though he didn't win. Just like I would experience the things that I would go through, that my wife and I would go through in our marriage when we failed at things, when I failed at things. We still had the experience. And from that comes the learning opportunities. And from that comes the things that we did accomplish. And yes, you can accomplish a lot and still fail. And then, of course, the wins that we have. You see, failure gives you three things: experience, learning opportunities, and an appreciation for the things that you are able to do. So when I win a golf tournament, yeah, right. So when I win a golf tournament, I evaluate why. And I come to realize that I could not have won this tournament if I had not lost the last three. You see, when I lost the first tournament, it made me realize that I needed to work on my putting. So I put an extra hour of practice on the greens before the next tournament. The second tournament I lost exposed my poor scramble play. So I put in some extra time practicing shooting out of the rough or coming out of the bunker, out of the sand trap. The third tournament I lost made me realize that I had developed a hitch in my swing, especially when I was teeing off. So I spent an extra hour at the range working on my drive. Then I won the fourth tournament. And when I analyzed why I won, it's because my driver was on point. I drove the ball into the fairway. It's because when I did get into the rough or I did hit it into the sand, I was able to scramble and get up and down and make par. And it was because I had the lowest putt per hole average in the tournament. Failing the three tournaments prior allowed me to realize the things that needed to be improved, how I needed to work on things in order to get to the next level. Fall in love with failing. Because you see, when I accept that trophy for that tournament that I win, and I spend time thanking everyone who helped me reach this point, I should absolutely thank failure for being such a humbling mentor and exposing the weaknesses that I needed to work on in order to succeed. Golf is a humbling game, as is life. So when you fail, and you will, when you fail, explore the reasons why, practice the areas that need improvement, and get your ass back up and go play the next round. Play it smarter, better, more determined than ever before. You know, at my last Toastmasters meeting, a friend of mine, Subramaniam Krishnakumar, or Subu, as he is affectionately known, gave his very first speech. He was nervous. And we worked together in revising his wording and some delivery, but his message needed no revision. See, the last line of his speech summarizes what I'm trying to say very well. This is what Subu said. If you have never failed, you have never lived. Such a true and powerful quote. So go live. Go fail. Go learn. Go win. I hope this week you fail at something, that you learn from that failure and you come back stronger, better, and more prepared to win the next time. That's how you win your week. And this has been your shot of motivation. I want to thank Amy Real, the real deal in all things mortgage, for sponsoring Shot of Motivation.
This has been a shot of motivation from America's leading emerging speaker, Jody Powell. We hope it helps you win your week.
All right, let's get to our special guest this week. Brandy Biglow is the CEO and founder of Renovation Integrative Health. She has a broad range of licenses and certifications, including, but not limited to, licensed mental health counselor, certified clinical trauma professional, and doctor of behavioral health candidate. She is on a mission to eliminate occupational burnout, one person, one community, and one organization at a time. Please welcome to the Quotivation Podcast, Brandy Biglow. Brandy, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. I love the intro. I want to pay you to do mine.
Come on, let's do it. Absolutely.
That is awesome. I loved it.
Listen, an intro is only as good as the person that you're introducing, so you are fantastic. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well,
happy to be here.
This is going to be a great conversation. I can't wait. First of all, I can't wait to get to the quote, but we're going to wait because I want to hear more about Brandy. I want to hear about what you do, your mission, your passion to eliminate occupational burnout, which is a huge issue that's going on, not just recently. I really believe that burnout, and particularly occupational burnout, has been something that's been going on for a long time, and we just haven't recognized it. It hasn't been talked about. It hasn't been brought to the forefront because, you know, we're taught, don't talk about that. No, that's a sign of weakness. That'll hurt your career. Tell us a little bit about what you do and why you have such a passion to eliminate occupational burnout.
Oh, man, that's a loaded question. So, but real quick, back in 2020, I actually experienced occupational burnout, right? As well as a lot of people when the pandemic hit. But mine was for a different reason. It was truly occupational burnout, meaning that it was caused by my job. It wasn't that I was in a pandemic. It wasn't that I was sick. It was literally the pressures that my job put on me that was a mismatch to my values, to my autonomy, to fairness, to all of the components of burnout. And once I went through that and I was able to recover, I said, I got to do something about this, because not only was it me, I saw all of my friends, co-workers, people on Facebook talking about it, but they couldn't really go to their job and say anything because, like you said, it was a sign of weakness. And it's not a sign of weakness because the research shows it is a combination, is a relationship between that person and their job. Something is not right. Something is gone awry. And to blame the individual, which is the concept that a lot of people put forth, is actually, for me, incorrect. And if you look at the guru of occupational burnout, in research with Christina Maslach, she says the same thing. It is not the person, it's the relationship to the job. And so I'm passionate about it because I want people to stop blaming themselves. It's not their fault.
Right.
It's a dual accountability there. Now, if you're not eating, you're not sleeping, you're not setting boundaries, okay, yes, you are responsible for that. But if your job is putting more and more responsibilities on you and not taking anything away, and then you can't take off PTO because you got this project due, and then they're not paying you right, so you got to get a second job, and then you got somebody micromanaging you, and then you got people, throwing shade and being messy at work, and then you got a boss that's just inconsiderate. Yeah, you're gonna burn out, but nobody likes to consider that piece. And I'm not blaming organizations, but I am saying, hey, there's an accountability that you have to take here in order to turn this mess around, because just in healthcare alone, 4.6 billion per year.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B.
Wow. So, Brandy, tell us a little bit, what are the symptoms that people should be looking for? And so it's difficult because sometimes it's just like, well, am I tired, or do I just not want to do this project, or am I getting kind of that itch to move on to something more challenging versus true burnout? What should people be looking for to determine if they really have occupational burnout?
All right, so let me be a nerd. I'm such a nerd, right? So there's 3 dimensions to burnout. One is mental exhaustion. So not like you're physically tired, but that mental exhaustion when you're checking out, where you come home, you sit on the couch and you just veg out on Netflix, and then you're like, oh my God, I gotta go to bed. And you're hitting the snooze button like 8 times because you're like, your brain is gone, you can't focus, you can't concentrate. So that's one dimension. The second dimension is your negative, right? Or you're cynical about your work. So if you're a teacher, you don't care about these kids. I'm just collecting this check. If you're a clinician like myself, I'm like, girl, you depressed? Please, come on now, get with the program. Like, do what I told you to do and stop acting up. Right? That cynicalism, that
right. I love it.
That negativity, just coming in and working like, oh. You're counting down the hours. And the third is now you start making errors. Like you're missing your deadlines. You're not crossing those T's, you're not dotting those I's. And so all 3 of those have to be present to meet criteria for burnout. However, here's the thing. This is the misconception. People think if they're overworked, they have burnout. No, you are overextended. Right? People think if they don't like the people that they work with, or they tired of this job, or they tired of looking at these customers, they're not burnt out. They're disengaged. Right? People think, oh my God, I'm missing errors. I'm making errors. I'm missing deadlines. I'm burnt out. No, you're ineffective. So it takes all 3 of those. If you are tired and you checked out and you don't care and you're making errors, now you are burnt out. To your question of what to look for, the biggest thing for me too, your physical, like your body's going to tell you lay down somewhere, right? That hitting of the snooze button, that energy, that just pure exhaustion, that's one. But more importantly is your thoughts. When you start saying, oh, I can't do this no more. I don't know how much longer I can handle this.
Yeah.
If you're crying, thinking about, oh, I don't know if I can make it. I don't know why they don't like me. It's really about paying attention to your thoughts. Then that is a red flag warning that you may want to talk to somebody, get a coach and say, hey, can you help me with this? Because this is not working. I'm no longer feeling fulfilled with my work anymore. It's not meaningful anymore. I ain't got it. I ain't got it. That's a good way to put it.
It's a good way to put it. And then you mentioned disengagement versus burnout, and so a lot of people probably don't understand the difference. You talk about nerding out. I can nerd out over some engagement. I love engagement surveys. I love to find out what makes people tick, what makes them motivated, what makes them excited about doing their job, and how they take fulfillment from their job. Talk to me a little bit about the difference between burnout and just disengagement, because I think that the lines can blur, because people will say, yeah, I'm tired. Yeah. I don't find fit. Yeah, but no, you just don't like what you're doing. You're not
Yes.
really tired. Like
Exactly.
like the tiredness. The tiredness is like I want to get up and do something, and I physically can't. It's not.
Emotionally can't.
Yes,
I'm
it's
snapping on people.
right.
I'm kicking the dog, and the dog didn't even do nothing.
Right.
That's
It's
you
not
know?
like I'm kind of tired. I must be
Yeah.
burned out. No. It's like a physical impairment. Can't do it. So tell me a little bit about the difference between disengagement and burnout.
Okay. So real easy. Disengagement. I go to work and I'm there. I do the minimum if I even do that. But then when I come home, I'm hanging out. I'm kicking it with my peeps. I'm doing my thing. I come alive at 5 o'clock. I'm like, I'm out the door, baby. Pew, pew, pew. That's disengagement.
Yes.
That's disengagement. Burnout, you're doing the minimum. You come home and you can't. Don't talk to me. I just need a minute or the whole day or the whole night. I'm drinking my wine. Whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm watching TV, I'm scrolling on, social media. I am not engaging with anyone or anything. I'm isolating. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling anxious. That is, I need to talk to somebody. That's more towards burnout.
Yeah. And it's interesting because that feeling of I want to lay down on the couch and veg out on Netflix. There's a difference between wanting to do that and feeling like that's the only thing you can do.
Correct.
And I think that's a big distinction because there are days that I absolutely want to lay down on the couch and watch 5 episodes of Stranger Things on Netflix whenever that comes out. When they can't come with the final season soon enough for that one, or whatever it is, like that's something I'm looking forward to. I want to do that versus I can't do anything else. Like I just physically can't. And it's a feeling of, gosh, I hate that I can't get up and do things.
Yes.
Right. And so that's different.
Great picture.
Yeah, it's different, right? I mean, because
dishes not done, clothes ain't clean.
Yes.
Car is a mess. Your partner be like looking at you like, when was the last time you bathed? Like, can you shave? Can you get a haircut? Like,
yeah, right.
It's going downhill. Yes.
Right. Now, and we've talked a lot about what I can look for from me, but I would imagine that there is a real need for people in leadership positions to recognize and understand this. Talk to me a little bit about what should it look like from the leader standpoint, from the organization standpoint, looking for burnout versus the individual who has to deal with it on a daily basis and have to figure it out on their own. What should companies do?
Well, I mean, the first things first, let's take me for, I'm a bad example, but let's just take me for an example, right? Let's say I'm working at a job and for the first 6 months, I'm good. I'm turning my stuff on time. I have no errors. I'm engaging with people. I'm doing the cooler, conversations and all of that. And then something happens and we don't know what, and that starts to slowly decline, right? And so all of a sudden you get to a place as a leader, like, oh, what happened to Brandy? Now she's turning her stuff in. It has more errors. She's asking for extensions. She's not coming out of her office anymore. She's coming in late. She's trying to leave early. That's when, as a leader, you say, hey girl, what's going on? Right? And so the hard part is that leaders will, instead of saying, hey, what's going on with you? What happened? A lot of them want to be punitive.
Right.
And they want to write you up. They want to give you a written verbal instead of like, let's have a conversation. Says, hey, 6 months ago, you were doing these things. And I noticed over the last 3 or 4 months that has declined. What happened? What's going on?
Right.
Is there anything I can do to support you? Because for me as a leader, you are a servant first. Right? I'm not here to hurt you. I was a program manager. I would force my clinicians to take time off. I was like, go home. Please go home.
Yeah.
Please go home and don't come back. Right? Because you can't possibly be in the right headspace to help someone with their problems when your house burned down or it was flooded because of a hurricane or you have no power. Like, are you kidding me right now? No. They was like, well, what about this? I was like, don't worry about that. And so me as a leader, I went to my leaders and say, hey, this person is not coming in. Their numbers are going to be low because this, and this happened. And when I explained it, they were like, oh, okay. Were they concerned about the bottom line? Yes. Were they concerned about the missing money? Yes. But at the end of the day, when I gave that woman her rest, she came back and she hit it hard. And she was able to be effective and not disengaged and not checked out. So as a leader, you have to know your people. If you don't know your people, it'll be 6, 7, 8, 9 months before you even realize that something happened.
Right.
And go ahead.
And so it's interesting too, because there are leaders that will do exactly what you just said. It's punitive. It's like, hey, you're not hitting your numbers, so we're going to write you up. Boom, boom. There are leaders that will say, hey, something's off. What's going on? And maybe that person feels comfortable to share, and they do. But then what? What should the leader do at that point? Where I think there's a lack of tools provided to organization and leaders to help deal with the situation. It's one thing to know about it, quite a different thing to help someone heal and recover from the trauma, right? So what are some things that companies should enact and utilize as tools to help individuals who feel this way?
Well, it really depends on what the problem is, right? Because according to Christina Maslach, there are six components. There's the values, meaning, are you asking me to do something that I don't want to do? Right? Are you asking me to sell a product that I know is garbage? Right? Then we have control. Are you micromanaging me? Are you on my case? Are you not letting me do what I need to do? Am I in the wrong fit? Are you trying to make me a salesperson and I belong in accounting? Right. Then there's fairness. Do I see you treating Bob better than you're treating me? Does Bob get his PTO approved, but I don't? Yeah, that's not okay. Right. Then there's community. Are we throwing shade? Are we messy with each other? Are we throwing each other the bus? Can I ask for help without feeling like somebody's gonna talk bad about me?
Sure.
Then there's rewards. Like, if I, for example, as a counselor in community mental health, don't give me a gift card to Chick-fil-A. Thank you. What you can give me, though, is a gas card because I'm driving around to all these schools. Right? Don't tell me to come in for Employee Appreciation Week for lunch. That's nice and all, but I still have to go see all of my clients. So now I have to move my whole schedule to come to this thing that I'm just like, meh, I'm not going to that.
Yeah.
Give me something else. So it really is a conversation of what's going on. And then for most people, it's workload. It's like, you gave me 1,000 tasks, but I can only complete 60 because that's what I have to do. Or there's redundancy of tasks, duplication of tasks. Or in my field, the EHR is like 85,000 clicks just to get to one place. Or for doctors, it's like, I didn't become a doctor to become an administrator. I became a doctor to heal people.
Right.
And so all these clicks and all these things that I have to do and all of these requirements, is like, it's burning the doctors out. So it really is a conversation of what's going on. That's number one. And number two, what's the smallest thing that I can do to support you, to move you away from feeling the way that you feel.
Yeah.
Because taking time off is not going to do it. I took I'll tell you this personal story. I took 6 weeks off of work with, the encouragement from my therapist. And I got back, and within 4 hours, I was like, I got to quit this job. I was like, nope.
Yeah. Because
it didn't matter that I got my mind right. When I came back, my relationship with the job, and then within no joke, I want to say by lunchtime, I was like, I got to quit this job.
Yeah.
I have to plan my exit.
How many people do you think are there, like planning their exit?
Well, here's the thing. Most people don't know. I won't say most. There's a lot of people who don't know that they have the option to plan their exit. They think they have to stay there, and they think they have to take it. And because it's either because of money, right? The financial security.
Sure.
The flexibility. Oh, I can pick my son up from school or my daughter up from school, or I can work from home. They don't know that there are other options out there. because it's like, if you have this job, then there has to be another one of this job out there for you to have.
Yeah.
So that's the one piece. The second piece is that I don't think they feel psychologically safe to have a conversation with their leadership.
Right.
Because like you said, their leadership don't even have the tools to have the conversation back. Because a lot of managers, not leaders, a lot of managers are taught, you talk about their strengths, but then you go, but this is what you can do better. How about you just talk about my strengths and leave it right there?
Yeah. Yeah. Focus on the strengths. And so many studies have been done on where you focus your time and learning and development. Should you focus them on your weaknesses or your strengths? I've always been of the mindset to develop your strengths and hire for your weaknesses.
Correct. I'm about that life.
Surround yourself with people who are better than you in a lot of ways. And that's hard to do. It's scary. You're scared to hire that person that you think, God, they're better than me, because you're afraid they're going to come take something from you.
Yes.
And that's not the case.
Normally it's not the case. Most people are not interested in that. Most people, we are social beings by nature. We are not, grimy like that by nature. And even if we engage in those behaviors, it's usually out of fear or something like that.
Exactly. Fear and low self-esteem. Two of the biggest captors we place upon ourselves. No one puts them on us but us. Our biggest enemy is in the mirror. And
all day, every day. Me against me.
I mean, really. And you know what's scary about that is that your enemy knows you very well. Because it's you. Yes. But the good thing is we also know our enemy very well, and we know how to get around those traps that we set for ourselves. And it's just a conscious decision to do that. And I think that's also part of occupational burnout too, is how do you find within yourself the answer? Because no one knows the situation better than me. Correct. And so I can get advice. I can watch TED Talks. I can look at YouTube. I can go to therapy. I can, and absolutely should.
Yes.
You should seek those answers. You should seek that inspiration, but ultimately the right answer, you're only going to find it inside yourself.
I agree.
And so how does someone come to that? So you've mentioned therapy, and we talk about things like, finding those inspirational videos, or those people that have kind of been through it videos. What are the steps that someone should take in order to kind of overcome this occupational burnout?
Okay. First of all, an assessment. You need to know where you're at.
Yeah.
Right. So I need to know if I'm burnt out because I'm overworked. Am I burnt out because I'm in a toxic culture? Am I burnt out because I need to work 3 jobs? What's going on that I am burnt out? Yeah. Once I know that, then you can begin to plan your action. I always start with the foundation. Are you sleeping well? Are you resting? Why? Because people think, I'll rest when I'm dead. I'll sleep when I'm dead. If you don't rest and you don't sleep, you will be dead.
That's right.
Right? Rest is real work. It's the time where your body detoxifies. It's a time when your body recovers. You need to rest and you need to sleep. We need to hydrate. Right? Are you drinking enough water? Most of us are not drinking enough water. Right? A good way to say, what's the color of your urine? If it's looking like beer, you need to drink some water. Yep. Apple juice, you need to drink some water. A nice light tint of yellow, you're good to go. Right? Are you eating well? Right? Are we eating candy and carbs and Subway and Quiznos and McDonald's, or are we eating kale? Steak is good for you, actually. It's not too bad as long as you don't overdo it. Right? Are we eating well? Right? Are we playing? We as adults.
Yeah.
I'll play. No. As kids, we play. That's how we learn. We're still kids inside. So we got to play. And are we exercising? Are we moving? Most, they say sitting is the new death of, I forget the terminology, but we sit more than we do anything else.
Yeah.
So before you can even come out of burnout, and go get a physical, make sure you don't have a vitamin D deficiency, make sure your thyroid isn't off, make sure you have everything right physically, because once you lay that foundation, then you'll have the energy and the capacity emotionally, mentally, and physically to put your plan of action in place. whether that's to up your skill set. If you don't make enough money and you have to take 3 jobs, you may have to invest in yourself. You may have to get a skill.
Yeah.
If it's the messiness of your organization, you may have to put some boundaries in place. Right. If it's control, you may have to talk to your boss and be like, listen, you breathing down my neck is not really helpful for me. And so there's a series of strategies that you can use, and up to and including leaving your job.
Yeah. And that's not always the answer. Right?
No,
I mean,
not.
like you said, I mean, there are conversations that need to be had.
Yes.
And so a lot of times that is the roadblock. Oh, well, I'm not going to talk. They're not going to listen. Don't project. Don't be projecting on somebody. Right.
Yes.
I mean, have the conversation, whether you think they're going to listen or not, because at the end of the day, you can say, I've done everything I possibly can.
Absolutely.
Right. And so that's going to help you sleep at night.
Absolutely.
Right. So yeah, I've done everything I can, and here's where we're at, and then make a decision going forward. Brandy, this is incredibly interesting. I love this conversation, but I want to give you an opportunity. Tell me a little bit about what your company does. What do you do specifically to help combat this and other things? Tell me about Renovation Integrative Health.
So RH, as I like to affectionately call it, I am about designing a life of harmony. So you may have heard of work-life balance. I'm about work-life harmony, because there's a dance that needs to happen in order for you to be happy in your personal life as well in your professional life. We spend about 30 to 50% of our time at work. So we want to be happy there, but it's not everything to us. So we want to be able to have a partner. We want to be able to have friends. We want to be able to have hobbies, but there's a dance there, because sometimes you're going to have to say, I got to work hard because here's this project. But sometimes you're going to be like, nah, man, I got to go to my son's graduation, or I need to take this vacation. So I'm all about work-life harmony. And so I do that by educating people. Education is the most important thing. Education about what burnout is not, the risk factors and the protective factors. So for example, trauma, huge. Anxiety, depression. If you already have a mental health disorder, you are more prone to burnout. If you have childhood trauma or adult trauma, for that matter, you are prone to burnout. If you've gotten a divorce, or someone has died, or you're a caregiver of a parent, you are prone to burnout. If you have perfectionism, or so many things, right? If you Black, gay, straight, trans, all of that, and facing discrimination, racial, sexual orientation, that those can be risk factors to burnout. So first is education. Second is really building an individualized plan to say, okay, where do we tackle this first? Like I said, I start with self-care. Are we eating? Are we sleeping? Are we drinking? Are we drinking? Are we exercising? We start there. You'll be surprised how people will go back and forth, and when they get stressed, one of those goes out the window.
Sure.
I work with clients and they're like, stressed. And I'm like, okay, so did you exercise? Oh no, I haven't exercised in a month. Get back to it. Get back to it, because exercising well and getting outside and just laughing with friends are the best antidepressants and anti-anxieties that you can ever take.
That's right.
I am not opposed to medication. At the same time, I'm like, are you doing these things though? So that's where my work centers. I work with individuals. I work with companies. I work with associations. I work with anybody who is seeking to say, hey, I don't want this anymore in my life. I want to design a life of harmony, and I want to eliminate burnout from my life. So that's across industries, that is across genres, that is across ages. So I am very open and very passionate about sharing what I have learned, simply for the purpose of helping people live a more harmonious life.
That's powerful. And I love the idea, the feeling of living a more harmonious life, because when you have that harmony, not just the balance, but the harmony, you have an impact on others. You have an impact on your community. You have an impact on your nation. You have an impact on your world. I think you know where I'm going with this, because I want to get into your quote. and I love this, the Quotivation Podcast. This quote is a fable. It's a wonderful story. I love that you sent this in. Brandy, tell us first the story, the quote, and then what this means to you.
So instead of reading it, I will paraphrase it. So there's this man and he wants to change the world. So he goes out there, he goes, I'm gonna conquer the world. And he's like, and the world is like, boy, going on somewhere. So he's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna try to change my nation. His nation was like, get to stepping. So then he was like, okay, I can't change them. Let me go to my town. And even his town was like, nah, we ain't got time for you. And so then once he realized that he was an older man, he was like, man, I should have changed myself first. Because if I change myself first, then I can change my family. If I can change my family, we can change the town. If we can change the town, we can change the nation. And if we can change the nation, we can change the world. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so I love that because there's many, many quotes about one person causing a ripple effect and changing the world. Many, many people. Martin Luther King has one. I can't think of the name. I want to say one of the president's wives has one. Eleanor Roosevelt has one.
I had a guest on a few episodes back who gave one very similar from Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa, yes.
Yep.
So it's very much like if you can just get yourself straight and you can let your light shine. You know, another poem, don't be afraid to let your light shine.
Yes.
And giving permission for others to allow their light to shine. Then together we can change the world. We can change the world. And I feel that way about occupational burnout because as you said in the beginning, this has been around for a long time. Yeah. Christina Maslach has been studying this since the 70s. It actually was mentioned in Greek poetry about burnout, right? They didn't use the same words, but you know, right? So it's been around where people have been just burning out and having issues. But because of, and I love capitalism in its theory, right? But in its practice, they put profit over people.
Right.
And because we live in a country that is very individualized, right? We don't know how to come together. But if I can come together for myself, if I can show up for myself, and then people are watching me like, oh, look at her.
Yeah.
Oh, what's she doing? Which is what we do. I mean, that's why we got influencers, right?
Right.
And they start to emulate that. And then they start to believe that they can make the changes. Then the organizations in the world will have no choice but to listen and make changes accordingly, which is what happened with the Great Resignation. People said, I'm tired. Which is what happening with presenteeism. When I come to work and I do the minimum, and it's actually companies are losing money. Why? Because we're tired. We're tired.
I love what you said there, and it summarizes the story, this fable, very well. And I had it in my head, and I'm about to butcher it, but I'll say it anyway. We can't all come together until I get myself together.
I'll take it. Yeah.
And that's essentially what we're talking about. You got to get your stuff together. You got to get yourself together so that people around you see that, and people around you know what you're going through. My family knows what I'm going through. My friends, to a degree, they know what I'm going through. They know that I've had to deal with family issues, with ailments, with health, with occupational issues. They know the things that have been impacting me. And if they see, and it's not like let's put on this performance, let's put on this smile. It's not like Facebook family, right? Everybody has the perfect family on Facebook until you start digging into the family. Okay. But it's not necessarily that. It's being able to keep everything in line with your life, and it's authentic and it's real despite what's going on, despite what's coming at you. It's not the fake smile. It's authentically having your stuff together.
Yes. And
when people see that, it's like, well, I mean, I know him. I could do that. He know better than I am. I could do that. And they're right. Absolutely, you're right. You're not any better than I'm not any better than you are. So yeah, get your stuff together. And so 2 or 3 people start getting their stuff together. And then people see them doing it. And then 10 or 20 people are getting their stuff. And all of a sudden, we've kind of come into alignment. And some of the divisiveness that's going on, some of the hate that's going on, some of the anger. I can't believe, Brandy, you can't drive down the road without getting flipped off, honked at, All of it. And where are you going? This like, if it's that important, turn your flashers on. I'll get out of your way.
For real.
I mean, is it an emergency that you're speeding down the road to get to McDonald's? To get
Yeah.
your right. Yeah. So I love the fact that the fable is just, it starts with you. Everything starts with you. Like, you want to change the world, change yourself.
Yes.
Love that. So why this quote for Brandy?
Because I realized that I have the power to be influential, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the magnitude of that influence only comes if I am authentic with myself.
Okay. I
can fake it, sure, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be found out to be an imposter, and I do not have imposter syndrome. I'm awesome, and I know I'm awesome, right?
Love it. Yes.
But I had to come to a place to say, yeah, I am awesome, and this is why I am awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know that I exude that energy from others, and it had to start with me. I had to deal with my traumas and my dramas and my insecurities. And I had to talk to myself gently and kindly and with compassion. Okay. I had to parent my little girl, my little Brandy, and say, come on now, girl, you know we better than that.
Right.
Right. Yep. And I had to come to a place, and I'm still working on it, because there's some days where she come back and she is ferocious. She nasty sometimes. She nasty. She hurt my feelings. But for the most part, we can have a good conversation. And it starts with me, because I recognize that it's just me against me.
Yeah.
You know, I can't force anybody else to change, but I can change. If you want to act a fool, you can act a fool. All I can do is choose how I respond to your foolishness.
Right.
And when I set my boundary, you got options. You can abide by my boundary. You can push my boundary. You can ignore my boundary. Either way is going to change our dynamic. Because if you push the boundary and I'm strong, I'm going to push back and say, hey, we talked about this now.
Yeah.
And if you continue, then here's the consequence. And so if you continue, I can't change your behavior, but what I can say, you know what? We can't do this anymore.
Right.
And you're either going to be like, for real? And I'm going to be like, yeah, girl, yeah. And either you're going to change your behavior to help to respect my boundary, or you're going to leave me alone.
Sure.
And so what I'm going to do then, because I do that, I'm not betraying myself. I'm choosing myself. My mental health, my spiritual health, my emotional health. And I'm saying, you do you, boo. If that's how you want to act over there, please go ahead. No harm, no foul. But you can't bring that over here.
Right.
Because I'm protecting my energy. And that's why it starts with me.
Sure. And you know, doing that, there's a lot of people that will face fear in doing that, because we're afraid of losing people. Yes. In our lives. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that people are brought into our lives. Some people are brought into our lives to be there for the entire duration. But some people are only meant to be there for a season.
Yes.
But sometimes that season ends. And if they're there longer than that season, they're not helping you. They're not.
Correct.
You know, or you're not helping them.
Correct.
Because it goes both ways. Right. I mean, we have to also recognize other people's boundaries and act accordingly, you know, decide if we want to push those, or do we want to respect those, or are we going to ignore those? I think that's I love it, because it's a two-way street. It's an exercise in yourself, in setting your own, but it's also an exercise in yourself in respecting others.
Yes.
And it flows both ways. It's not just about me. It's about me and how I interact with you and with you and with you. And yeah, sometimes those things aren't going to jive.
No. And that's where you have mutual respect. Yeah. If I say, listen, I want to be on the phone when I'm at dinner with you, and you tell me I don't like that because it means you're not paying attention to me, and I decide not to honor that, then I can say, then we can't have dinner no more.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be like, for real? I'm like, yes, because I it's about that. I'm not gonna betray myself just to be in community with you.
Right.
right? I need to belong to myself first. Brene Brown, actually Maya Angelou, right? I belong to myself and no one,
Yeah.
right? I got to belong to myself first, and then I can belong with you and to you.
Yeah.
But so many of us, we don't even belong to ourselves. We don't even know what that even looks like. We betray ourselves for a quick fix,
Yep.
on social media or whatever. And that's a really hard learned behavior to break.
It is. It is. Habits are so easy to form and so difficult to break. Brandy, as we wrap up, I love to give everyone that's listening something from this story, from your quote about the man that tried to change the world and then couldn't, but tried to change the nation, but couldn't, tried to change his town, but couldn't, and realized in his old age, I should have changed myself first. For people that are struggling right now, that are listening to this, trying to understand, why do I feel tired? Why am I facing this job that I hate? Why am I having to deal with this boss that's breathing down my neck? Why am I feeling this way? How can they take this quote, this story, and apply it in order to win their week?
Absolutely. One thing first, one small thing. It is about consistency and not intensity.
Ooh.
One thing you can do. One thing. So whether that's sleep, whether that's rest, whether that's eat, whether that's play, whether that's write a list, whether that's go for a walk, what is one thing you can do this week that'll help move you towards the person that you want to be? James Clear said, every habit is a vote for the person that I want to become. So what is the one thing I can do this week that will move me towards the person that I want to become? Now, if you're like, I don't know the person I want to become, then that's how you win your week. I want you to think about, visualize. I want you to think about how it looks, how it feels, what it sounds like, and where you are, the person that you want to be. I don't want you to put a timeline on it, because that's going to destroy you if you don't make it.
Yeah.
So we just want to look towards the person that I want to be. And what's one action that I can do today to move myself in that direction?
That's fantastic. I love that. And it breaks it down into a very simple step that you can apply right now to find that one thing and to move you toward the person you want to be. And I love that descriptor. And the fact that you said, well, maybe I don't know who I want to be. Well, there's your one thing. Figure it out. And whatever you got to do to figure out who you want to be, what you want to do, how you want to create ripples in the world. If you can figure that out, then you absolutely have won your week. Brandy, this has been fantastic. I want to give you an opportunity. If someone wants to reach out to you, to work with you, to connect with you through Renovation Integrative Health, how do they connect with you? What's some opportunities for my audience to get in touch with you, to work with you?
Absolutely. So they can email me, Brandy with a Y. So BRANDYB, because that's the initial of my last name, at GETRIH.com. So they can email me. They can text me 352-815-9131, or they can go on to my website, which is under construction, by the way, at www.getrih.com.
Fantastic. I'm going to put all of that information. If you're good with that, Brandy, I'm going to put all of that information in the episode recap. So if you're watching this on YouTube, check it out in the comments below. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast service, be sure to click the episode descriptor, read more, and you will find Brandy's contact information if you want to reach out to her and figure out a way to overcome this occupational burnout. She absolutely will walk you through the steps, will guide you through it, will help you discover that work-life harmony. I love that. It's fantastic. She's Brandy Biglow, and she is the CEO and founder of Renovation Integrative Health. Brandy, thank you so much for being on the Quotivation Podcast today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It has been my pleasure and my honor and my privilege. I appreciate you.
You're fantastic. Thank you so much. And that was Brandy Biglow, from the CEO and founder of Renovation Integrative Healthcare. And Brandy can help you face the challenges that come along with occupational burnout. So if you're feeling tired all the time, if you're feeling like your job is just overwhelming, that you're overworked, that you feel like that you can't keep doing the things that you're doing, if your exhaustion is affecting your home life, life outside of work, if you're anxious, if you're having trouble sleeping, having trouble eating, any of those symptoms, reach out to Brandy. Give her a call. Let her help you walk through the process of healing. And instead of being burned out, light you on fire so that you can go out and win your week. So I want to thank Brandy for being on the Quotivation Podcast. And hey, stick around. We've got just enough time for the last slice of cheesecake.
How about some dessert before you go? There isn't anything that can't be solved over a slice of cheesecake. So before we wrap things up, sit back, relax, and enjoy the last slice of cheesecake.
It's an overwhelming feeling. The feeling of no control over your energy level, over how you feel about what you're doing in your life. A feeling of being completely micromanaged. The feeling that comes with that, and distrust that's placed upon you. Being micromanaged at work can create all kind of scenarios in our head where it feels like they don't trust me. They don't think I can do the job. They don't think I'm capable. And it begins to build barriers within our own mind. It begins to put shackles upon us. And we do it to ourselves. Even though the micromanaging is coming from external source, the feelings that come from that, the way we respond, come from within us. Occupational burnout is a serious issue. It's real. It's not laziness. It's not someone who just is disgruntled with their job. It is a mental health issue. And it needs to be treated as such, not only by the individual that's experiencing it, but by the individuals that employ that person. It's a real thing, and it should be taken seriously. And I want to thank Brandy Biglow for coming on and giving us and exposing us to the truth about occupational burnout. And then I want to thank her as well for that amazing fable, the story. And the story actually comes from like a 12th century monk who wanted to change the world. And he realized he couldn't do it. He wanted to change his nation, and he realized that he couldn't do it alone. He wanted to change his town, and he realized he couldn't do it alone. He wanted to change those around him, his family, his friends. But what he realized as life went on and he gained wisdom through experience, that you must first change yourself. And that change within you is contagious and will spread to those around you, those in your family, those in your network, those of whom you work with, those in your community. It will spread throughout your town. It will spread from town to town throughout your nation. It will spread nation to nation throughout the world. We can't change the world alone. We've said that many times on the Quotivation Podcast with many guests with various quotes. We alone cannot change the world. But if we change ourselves, if we look at the things within us that are not producing positive results for ourselves and for other people, if we can change those things so that they are putting out there those positive results, the positive impact, those ripples will begin to spread and flow, and they come back to you, and suddenly change for the better is experienced locally, nationally, and internationally. And I love this quote. I love the story, the fable that Brandy brought to us today. And it's a reminder that if you want to win your week, that if you're in a situation where you're facing occupational burnout, you come home from work and all you want to do is lay down on the couch and just veg out, even though you know there are other things that you really want to do, but that's all you have the energy to do. That's all you're able to do. If it's affecting your relationships outside of work, if it's affecting your sleep, your eating habits, your health, then that's occupational burnout. And so if you're staring that in the face, that's the first place to start. When you say, how do I change myself? Identify what's causing it. And realize that while you can get help from the outside, and you absolutely should get help from people like Brandy, from people that are pouring goodness into you, but the answer, the true answer, lies within you. Only you know your situation better than anyone else. So do the work to find the answer. Do the work to make the change within you. Because when the change happens within you, the change happens around you. And that's how you win your week. I want to thank Brandy Biglow for coming on, CEO of Renovation Integrative Health. Reach out to Brandy. Her contact information is in the episode recap. And I want to thank you for listening. That's all the time we have for the Quotivation Podcast. Till next time, stay quotivated.
You have been listening to the Quotivation Podcast, hosted by America's leading emerging speaker, Jody Powell. If you would like to book Jody to speak at your company, conference, or next event, visit www.jodypowellspeaks.com. You can also email him at Jody, that's Jody, at jodypowellspeaks.com. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Quotivation Podcast. And remember, stay quotivated.